Wile E Coyote and the Roadrunner. Wile E Coyote and the Roadrunner are a duo of cartoon characters from the Looney Tunes and Merrie Melodies series of cartoons. In each episode, the coyote repeatedly attempts to catch and subsequently eat the Roadrunner, a fast-running ground bird, but is never successful. Instead of his animal instincts, the coyote uses absurdly complex contraptions to try to catch his prey, which comically backfire, with the coyote often getting injured in slapstick fashion. Many of the items for these contrivances are mail-ordered from a variety of companies that are all named Acme. One running gag involves the coyote trying to shield himself with a little parasol against a great falling boulder that is about to crush him. Another running gag involves the coyote falling from a high cliff. After he goes over the edge, the rest of the scene, shot from a bird's-eye view, shows him falling into a canyon so deep that his figure is eventually lost to sight. This is followed, a second or two later, by the rising of a dust cloud from the canyon floor as the coyote hits. The characters were created by animation director Chuck Jones and writer Michael Maltese in 1948 for Warner Brothers, while the template for their adventures was the work of writer Michael Maltese. The characters star in a long-running series of theatrical cartoon shorts and occasional made-for-television cartoons. It was originally meant to parody chase cartoons like Tom and Jerry, but became popular in its own right. The coyote appears separately as an occasional antagonist of Bugs Bunny in 5 shorts from 1952 to 1963, Operation Rabbit, to Hair as Human, Rabbit's Feet, Compressed Hair, and Hairbreadth Hurry. While he is generally silent in the Coyote Roadrunner shorts, he speaks with a refined accent in these solo outings, beginning with 1952's Operation Rabbit, introducing himself as Wile E Coyote Genius, voiced with an upper-class accent by Mel Blanc. The Roadrunner vocalizes only with a signature sound, beep, beep, recorded by Paul Julian, and an accompanying popping cork tongue noise. To date, 49 cartoons have been made featuring these characters, the majority by Chuck Jones. TV Guide included Wile E Coyote in its 2013 list of the 60 nastiest villains of all time. Creation Jones based the coyote on Mark Twain's book Roughing It, in which Twain described the coyote as a long, slim, sick and sorry-looking skeleton that is a living, breathing allegory of want. He is always hungry. Jones said he created the Coyote Roadrunner cartoons as a parody of traditional cat and mouse cartoons such as MGM's Tom and Jerry, which Jones would work on as a director later in his career. Jones modeled the coyote's appearance on fellow animator Ken Harris. The coyote's name of Wile E is a pun of the word Wiley. The E stands for Ethelbert in one issue of a Looney Tunes comic book. The coyote's surname is routinely pronounced with a long E, but in one cartoon short, To Hair as Human, Wile E is heard pronouncing it with a diphthong. Early model sheets for the character prior to his initial appearance identified him as Don Coyote, a pun of the name Don Quixote. List of cartoons. The series consists of 1 re-edited from Adventures of the Roadrunner, by Chuck Jones, and with new music direction from Bill Lava, 2 re-edited from Adventures of the Roadrunner, by DePatie Frelling Enterprises. 3 These cartoons were shown with a feature-length film. Chariots of Fur was shown with Richie Rich, Coyote Falls was shown with Cats and Dogs, The Revenge of Kitty Galore, Fur of Flying was shown with Legend of the Guardians, The Owls of Ga'Hoole, Rabid Rider was shown with Yogi Bear. Flash in the Pane was shown at the Annecy International Animated Film Festival on June 10, 2014. Scenery. The desert scenery in the first 3 Roadrunner cartoons, Fast and Furio US, Beep, Beep, and Going, Gosh, were designed by Robert Gribroke and was quite realistic. In most later cartoons the scenery was designed by Maurice Noble and was far more abstract. Acme Corporation. Wile E Coyote often obtains various complex and ludicrous devices from a mail-order company, the fictitious Acme Corporation, which he hopes will help him catch the Roadrunner. The devices invariably fail in improbable and spectacular fashion. Whether this is a result of operator error or faulty merchandise is debatable. The coyote usually ends up burnt to a crisp, squashed flat, or at the bottom of a canyon. Occasionally, Acme products do work quite well. In this case, their success often works against the coyote. For example, the dehydrated boulder, upon hydration, becomes so large that it crushes him, or the coyote finds out that the earthquake pills bottle label's fine print states that the pills aren't effective on Roadrunners right after he swallows the whole bottle, thinking they're ineffective. Other times he uses items that are implausible, such as a superhero outfit, thinking he could fly wearing it. How the coyote acquires these products without money is not explained until the 2003 movie Looney Tunes, Back in Action, in which he is shown to be an employee of Acme. In a Tiny Toon Adventures episode, Wile E makes mention of his prot.g Calamity Coyote possessing an unlimited Acme credit card account, which might serve as another possible explanation. Wile E being a beta tester for Acme has been another suggested explanation. Wile E also uses war equipment such as cannons, rocket launchers, grenades, and bayonets which are generic, i.e. not Acme products. In a Cartoon Network commercial promoting Looney Tunes, they ask the coyote why he insists on purchasing products from the Acme Corporation when all previous contraptions have backfired on him, to which the coyote responds with a wooden sign, "Good line of credit." In Woe, Be Gone, after successfully avoiding being hit by his own rocket, the coyote is run over by an Acme truck emerging from a tunnel. The company name was likely chosen for its irony. Also, a company named Acme would have shown up in the first part of a telephone directory. Some people have said Acme comes from the common expansion "a company that makes everything," a backronym of the word. The origin of the name might also be related to the Acme company that built a fine line of animation stands and optical printers. However, the most likely explanation is the Sears house brand called Acme that appeared in their ubiquitous early 1900s mail-order catalogs. In two Roadrunner and Wile E Coyote short films, Ajax was used instead of Acme Corporation. In some others, the names A1 and Ace and Fleetfoot are used. In August, September and October 1982, the National Lampoon published a three-part series chronicling the lawsuit Wile E filed against the Acme Corporation over the faulty items they sold him in his pursuit of the Roadrunner. Even though the Roadrunner appeared as a witness for the plaintiff, the coyote still lost the suit. Laws and rules. In his book Chuck Amuck, The Life and Times of an Animated Cartoonist, Chuck Jones claimed that he and the artists behind the Roadrunner and Wile E cartoons adhered to some simple but strict rules. These rules were not always followed. And in an interview years after the series was made, principal writer of the original 16 episodes Michael Maltese stated he had never heard of these or any rules, and dismissed them as post-production observation. As in other cartoons, the Roadrunner and the Coyote follow certain laws of cartoon physics, peculiar to an animation universe. Some examples: both animals would also typically be introduced in a similar fashion, the action would slow to a halt, and a caption would appear with both their common name and a mock genus species name in faux Latin. For example, in Zoom at the top, Roadrunner was classified as an example of Disaperialis quicius, while Coyote was identified as Overconfidenti vulgaris. Later cartoons. The original Chuck Jones productions ended in 1963 after Jack L. Warner closed the Warner Brothers Animation Studio. War and Pieces, the last Roadrunner short directed by Jones, was released in mid-1964. By that time, David DePatie and veteran director Friz Frelling had formed DePatie Frelling Enterprises, moved into the facility just emptied by Warner, and signed a license with Warner Brothers to produce cartoons for the big studio to distribute. Their first cartoon to feature the Roadrunner was The Wild Chase, directed by Frelling in 1965. The premise was a race between the bird and the fastest mouse in all of Mexico, Speedy Gonzales, with the coyote and Sylvester the cat each trying to make a meal out of his usual target. Much of the material was animation rotoscoped from earlier Runner and Gonzales shorts, with the other characters added in. In total, DePatie Frelling produced 14 Roadrunner cartoons, 2 of which were directed by Robert McKimson. Due to cuts in the number of frames used per second in animated features, many of these final Roadrunner features were cheap-looking and jerky. Also, the music was very different and of poorer quality than the older features. That was disappointing to fans of the original shorts, and many felt it was the final death knell for animation. The
The remaining 11 were subcontracted to Format Films and directed under ex-Warner Brothers animator Rudy Lariva. The Lariva 11, as the series was later called, lacked the fast-paced action of the Chuck Jones originals and was poorly received by critics. In Of Mice and Magic, Leonard Maltin calls the series witless in every sense of the word. In addition, except for the Planet Earth scene at the tail end of Highway Runnery, there was only one clip of the coyote's fall to the ground, used over and over again. These cartoons can easily be distinguished from Chuck Jones cartoons because they feature the modern abstract WB Looney Tunes opening and closing sequences, and they use the same music cues over and over again in the cartoons, also by Lava. Only one of those 11 cartoons, Run, Sweet Roadrunner, had music that was actually scored instead of the same music cues. Another clear clue is that Jones' previously described laws for the characters were not followed with any significant fidelity, nor were there Latin phrases used when introducing the characters. Wile E Coyote and Bugs Bunny. Wile E Coyote has also unsuccessfully attempted to catch and eat Bugs Bunny in another series of cartoons. In these cartoons, the coyote takes on the guise of a self-described super genius and speaks with a smooth, generic upper-class accent provided by Mel Blanc. While he is incredibly intelligent, he is limited by technology and his own short-sighted arrogance, and is thus often easily outsmarted, a somewhat physical symbolism of street smarts besting book smarts. In one short, Bugs, with the help of speed pills, even stands in for Roadrunner, who has sprained a giblet while cornering a sharp curve the other day, and carries out the duties of outsmarting the hungry predator. This is the only Bugs Bunny, Wile E Coyote short in which the coyote does not speak, and to use the Wile E Coyote Roadrunner cartoon formula. As usual, Wile E Coyote ends up falling down a canyon and fails to catch Bugs Bunny, much as the coyote always fails to catch and eat the Roadrunner. In a later, made-for-TV short, which had a young Elmer Fudd chasing a young Bugs, Elmer also falls down a canyon. On the way down he is overtaken by Wile E Coyote, who shows a sign telling Elmer to get out of the way for someone who is more experienced in falling. Other appearances both started in a 1962 pilot for a proposed television series, which was later released as a theatrical featurette titled Adventures of the Roadrunner. It was re-edited into a conventional animated short To Beep or Not to Beep by Chuck Jones, with new music by Bill Lava replacing Milt Franklin's original score. A few years later, the featurette was split into two animated shorts, Zip Zip Hooray, and Roadrunner A Go-Go, by DePatie Frelling Enterprises. Jones' 1979 movie The Bugs Bunny Roadrunner movie features many of Chuck's characters, including Wile E and Roadrunner. However, whereas most of the featured cartoons are single shorts or sometimes isolated clips, the footage of Wile E and Roadrunner is taken from several different cartoons and compiled to run as one extended sequence. Wile E and the Roadrunner have two cameo roles in Robert Zemeckis, Who Framed Roger Rabbit, first silhouetted when the elevator maneuvered by Droopy goes up, and then during the final scene in Marvin Acme's factory with several other studio characters. Wile E and the Roadrunner appear as members of the Toon Squad team in Space Jam. There, Wile E rigs one of the basketball hoops with dynamite to prevent one of the Monstars from scoring a slam dunk. And during practice before Lola Bunny shows up, Wile E gets his hands on a basketball, but the Roadrunner steals the ball from him, and heads into a painted image. But Wile E does not know it's a painted image, and he runs right into it. Wile E appears as an employee of the Acme Corporation in Looney Tunes, Back in Action. There, his role is similar to that of Mustafa from the Austin Powers movies. Wile E also makes a brief cameo in Tweety's high-flying adventure, being held by the neck by the Tasmanian Devil holding up a sign that says Mother before they both fall in the sea. Wile E is an employee at Daffy Duck's store, in the film Bah, Humduck. A Looney Tunes Christmas. He is seen staring hungrily at a vending machine, but Daffy does not allow him to eat during work hours. The Roadrunner also appears as a delivery boy. The two appeared in many different advertisements for Shell, Honey Nut Cheerios, and Wile E appears without the bird in adverts for the Energizer Bunny. In 2012, both Wile E and Roadrunner appeared in a Geico commercial, in which the wandering gecko is lost. While he is doing so, he nearly gets crushed with an anvil, and then a piano.
Just after this happens, Roadrunner runs up to him, says his trademark phrase, "beep beep," and goes on his way. The gecko then gets confused about the Roadrunner's catchphrase by saying, "meep meep." Suddenly, Wile E, chasing the Roadrunner, runs up, sees the gecko and imagines him as his dinner, but while doing so, is driven into the ground by a falling Acme safe. The commercial ends with the gecko concluding, "What a strange place." The Roadrunner is the mascot for a brand of ice melt manufactured by Scottwood Industries. The Roadrunner at one point was the mascot for Time Warner Cable Internet's Roadrunner High Speed Online, during the period when both entities were under the AOL Time Warner corporate umbrella. After the companies broke up in 2009, Time Warner Cable continued to license the Roadrunner name and iconography until the service was rebranded in 2012 as Time Warner Cable Internet. The two also appeared in the web cartoons Wild Kingdom, Judge Granny, Case 2, and Wile E Coyote Ugly on LooneyTunes.com. Plymouth licensed the Roadrunner's image for the Plymouth Roadrunner muscle car. Several styles of decals featuring the Roadrunner were put on the cars from 1968 to 1974. Chrysler's engineering department went to considerable trouble and expense to develop a car horn that made the classic meep meep sound of the Roadrunner for the model. A meep meep horn is still available from aftermarket auto parts company J.C. Whitney. Wile E appears as a defendant on the TV show Night Court. In the episode Still Another Day in the Life, he is subjected to a stern lecture by Judge Harold T. Stone, who tells him to go to a restaurant, a supermarket, but leave that poor bird alone, and finds Wile E guilty of harassment. The two have also appeared in the National Australia Bank's More Give, Less Take advertising campaign in 2012. Spin-offs in another series of Warner Brothers Looney Tunes cartoons, Chuck Jones used the character design of Wile E Coyote as Ralph Wolf. In this series, Ralph continually attempts to steal sheep from a flock being guarded by the eternally vigilant Sam Sheepdog. As with the Roadrunner and Coyote series, Ralph Wolf uses all sorts of wild inventions and schemes to steal the sheep, but he is continually foiled by the sheepdog. In a move seen by many as a self-referential gag, Ralph Wolf continually tries to steal the sheep not because he is a fanatic, but because it is his job. In every cartoon, he and the sheepdog punch a time clock, exchange pleasantries, go to work, take a lunch break, and clock out to go home for the day, all according to a factory-like blowing whistle. The most obvious difference between the coyote and the wolf, aside from their locales, is that Wile E has a black nose and Ralph has a red nose. Comic books. Wile E was called Kelsey Coyote in his comic book debut, a Henry Hawk story in Looney Tunes and Merrie Melodies number 91. He only made a couple of other appearances at this time and did not have his official name yet, as it wasn't used until 1951. The first appearance of the Roadrunner in a comic book was in Bugs Bunny Vacation Funnies number 8 published by Dell Comics. The feature is titled Beep Beep the Roadrunner and the story Desert Dessert. It presents itself as the first meeting between Beep Beep and Wile E, and introduces the Roadrunner's wife, Matilda, and their 3 newly hatched sons. This story established the convention that the Roadrunner family talked in rhyme, a convention that would also appear in early children's book adaptations of the cartoons. Dell initially published a dedicated Beep Beep the Roadrunner comic as part of 4-color comics number 918, 1008, and 1046 before launching a separate series for the character numbered #4 to 14, with the 3 tryout issues counted as the first 3 numbers. After a hiatus, Gold Key Comics took over the character with issues #1 to 88. During the 1960s, the artwork was done by Pete Alvarado and Phil Delara. From 1966 to 1969, the Gold Key issues consisted of Dell reprints. Afterward, new stories began to appear, initially drawn by Alvarado and Delara before Jack Manning became the main artist for the title. New and reprinted Beep Beep stories also appeared in Golden Comics Digest and Gold Key's revival of Looney Tunes in the 1970s. During this period, Wile E's middle name was revealed to be Ethelbert in the story The Greatest of Ease in issue number 53 of Gold Key Comics' licensed comic book, Beep Beep the Roadrunner. The Roadrunner and Wile E also make appearances in the DC Comics Looney Tunes title. Wile E was able to speak in some of his appearances in the DC Comics. In 2017, DC Comics featured a Looney Tunes and DC Comics crossovers that reimagined the characters in a darker style. Roadrunner and Wile E Coyote had a crossover with the bounty hunter Lobo in the Lobo Roadrunner special. In this version, Roadrunner, Wile E, and other Looney Tunes character are reimagined as standard animals who were experimented upon with alien DNA at Acme to transform them into their cartoon forms. In the backup story done in more traditional cartoon style, Lobo tries to hunt down Roadrunner, but is limited by bugs to be more kid-friendly in his language and approach. Television. The Roadrunner and the Coyote appeared on Saturday mornings as the stars of their own TV series, The Roadrunner Show, from September 1966 to September 1968, on CBS. At this time it was merged with The Bugs Bunny Show to become The Bugs Bunny and Roadrunner Show, running from 1968 to 1985. The show was later seen on ABC until 2000, and on Global until 2001. In the 1970s, Chuck Jones directed some Roadrunner short films for the educational children's TV series The Electric Company. These short cartoons used the Coyote and the Roadrunner to display words for children to read, but the cartoons themselves are a refreshing return to Jones' glory days. In 1979, Freeze Frame, in which Jones moved the chase from the desert to snow-covered mountains, was seen as part of Bugs Bunny's Looney Christmas Tales. At the end of Bugs Bunny's portrait of the artist as a young bunny, Bugs mentions to the audience that he and Elmer may have been the first pair of characters to have chase scenes in these cartoons, but then a pint-sized baby Wile E Coyote runs right in front of Bugs, chasing a gold-colored, mostly unhatched Roadrunner egg, which is running rapidly while some high-pitched beep-beep noises can be heard. This was followed by the full-fledged Runner Coyote short, Soup or Sonic. Earlier in that story, while Kid Elmer was falling from a cliff, Wile E Coyote's adult self tells him to move over and leave falling to people who know how to do it, and then he falls, followed by Elmer. In the 1980s, ABC began showing many Warner Brothers shorts, but in highly edited form. Many scenes integral to the stories were taken out, including scenes in which Wile E Coyote landed at the bottom of the canyon after having fallen from a cliff, or had a boulder or anvil actually make contact with him. In almost all WB animated features, scenes where a character's face was burnt and black, some thought resembling blackface, were removed, as were animated characters smoking cigarettes. Some cigar smoking scenes were left in. The unedited versions of these shorts were not seen again until Cartoon Network, and later Boomerang, began showing them again in the 1990s and early 2000s. Since the release of the WB library of cartoons on DVD, Boomerang has stopped showing the cartoons, presumably to increase sales of the DVDs. Wile E and the Roadrunner later appeared in several episodes of Tiny Toon Adventures. In this series, Wile E Coyote was the dean of Acme University and the mentor of Calamity Coyote. The Roadrunner's Prot G in this series was Little Beeper. In the episode Peace of Mind, Wile E narrates the life story of Calamity while Calamity is falling from the top of a tall skyscraper. In the direct-to-video movie Tiny Toon Adventures, How I Spent My Vacation, the Roadrunner finally gets a taste of humiliation by getting run over by a mail truck that breaks for coyotes. The two were also seen in cameos in Animaniacs. They were together in two Slappy Squirrel cartoons, Bumby's Mom and Little Old Slappy from Pasadena. In the latter, the Roadrunner gets another taste of humiliation when he is outrun by Slappy's car, and holds up a sign saying, "I quit." Immediately afterward, Buttons, who was launched into the air during a previous gag, lands squarely on top of him. Wile E appears without the bird in a The Wizard of Oz parody, dressed in his batsuit from one short, in a twister funnel in Buttons in OWs. Also, in the beginning of one episode, an artist is seen drawing Roadrunner. In a Cartoon Network TV ad about the Acme Hour, Wile E Coyote utilized a pair of jet roller skates to catch the Roadrunner and didn't fail. While he was cooking his prey, it was revealed that the roller skates came from a generic brand. The ad said that other brand isn't the same thing. Roadrunner appears in an episode of the 1990 series Tasmania in which Taz grabs him by the leg and gets ready to eat him until the two gators are ready to capture Taz, so he lets Roadrunner go. In another episode of Tasmania, the Roadrunner cartoons are parodied with Taz dressed as Roadrunner and the character Willy Wombat dressed as Wile E Coyote. Willy tries to catch Taz with Acme roller skates but fails, and Taz even says beep beep. Wile E and Roadrunner appeared in their toddler versions in Baby Looney Tunes, only in songs. However, they both had made a cameo in the episode Are We There Yet?, where Roadrunner was seen out the window of Floyd's car with Wile E chasing him. Wile E Coyote had a cameo as the true identity of an alien hunter in the Duck Dodgers episode K9 Corey, voiced by D. Bradley Baker. In that episode, he was hunting Martian Commander X2 and K9. In Lunatics Unleashed, Wile E Coyote and Roadrunner's 28th century descendants are Tech E Coyote and Rev Runner. Tech E Coyote was the tech expert of the Lunatics, and has magnetic hands and the ability to molecularly regenerate himself. Tech E Coyote speaks, but does not have a British accent as Wile E Coyote did. Rev Runner is also able to talk, though extremely rapidly, and can fly without the use of jet packs, which are used by other members of the Lunatics. He also has sonic speed, also a takeoff of Roadrunner. The pair get on rather well, despite the number of gadgets Tech designs in order to stop Rev from talking. Also they have their moments where they do not get along. When friendship is shown, it is often only from Rev to Tech, not the other way around. This could, however, be attributed to the fact that Tech has only the barest minimum of social skills. They are both portrayed as smart, but Tech is the better inventor, and at times Rev is shown doing stupid things. References to their ancestors' past are seen in the episode Family Business, where the other runners are wary of Tech and Tech relives the famous falling gags done in Coyote Runner shorts. Roadrunner and Wile E feature in 3D computer animated cartoons or cartoon animation in Cartoon Network's new TV series The Looney Tunes Show. The CGI shorts were only included in Season 1, but Wile E and Roadrunner still appeared throughout the series in 2D animation. Wile E Coyote also appears in the TV series Wabbit, voiced by J.P. Carliak, in a similar vein to his previous pairings with Bugs Bunny. He appears as Bugs' annoying, know-it-all neighbor who would always use his inventions to compete with Bugs. The Roadrunner began making appearances when the series was renamed New Looney Tunes in 2017. 3D shorts. The characters appeared in 7 3D shorts attached to Warner Brothers features. 3 have been screened with features, while the rest serve as segments in Season 1 of the Looney Tunes show. A short called Flash in the Pane was shown on the web in 2015, but was not shown in theaters. Film Warner Brothers is developing Coyote vs. Acme as a Wile E Coyote movie with the Lego Batman movie director Chris McKay on board to produce. John and Josh Silverman are set on writing the screenplay. Video games. Several Wile E Coyote and Roadrunner themed video games have been produced. The arcade game was originally to have been a Laserdisc-based title incorporating footage from the actual Roadrunner cartoons. Atari eventually decided that the format was too unreliable and switched it to more conventional raster-based hardware. In popular culture, Wile E Coyote and Roadrunner have been frequently referenced in popular culture. Wile E Coyote has appeared twice in Family Guy. His first episode, I Never Met the Dead Man, depicts him riding in a car with Peter Griffin. When Peter runs over the Roadrunner and asks if he hit that ostrich, Wile E tells him to keep going. His second appearance was in PTV, in which Wile E attempts to get a refund for a life-sized slingshot at an Acme retailer where Peter works. Peter says that Wile E cannot return the slingshot, but can get store credit. Wile E's wife then arrives and tells her husband to hurry up. Wile E Coyote and the Roadrunner appeared in Seth MacFarlane's cavalcade of cartoon comedy, in the short Die, Sweet Roadrunner, Die. In this short, Wile E crushes the Roadrunner with a large boulder and eats him, but then struggles to find purpose in life, having not trained for anything else other than chasing the Roadrunner. The series as a whole is mentioned briefly during one of the 2 endings in the 1996 point-and-click adventure game Harvester, when a character compares the violence in video games to Roadrunner cartoons. Guitarist Mark Knopfler created a song called Coyote in homage to the cartoon shows of Wile E Coyote and the Roadrunner, on the 2002 album The Ragpicker's Dream. The Tom Smith song, Operation Desert Storm, which won a Pegasus Award for Best Fool Song in 1999, is about the different crazy ways the Coyotes' plans fail. Dee Snider, lead singer of the glam metal band Twisted Sister, stated in his congressional testimony before the PRMC hearings on adding parental advisory labels for what they deemed were increasingly offensive lyrics, imagery, violence and misogyny in music and music videos, that the music video for the band's signature song, We're Not Gonna Take It, was based heavily on the cartoon, specifically how the band's foil in the video, assuming the role of Wile E. Coyote, seems more or less unharmed in each successive scene, much as he does in the cartoon, despite whatever severe injury or accident befalls him, and bearing no resemblance to the lyrics of the song. Humorist Ian Fraser created the mock legal prose piece Coyote v. Acme, which is included in a book of the same name. Terry Pratchett included an oblique reference to the cartoon in Thief of Time where Newgate Ludd managed to stop time for himself whilst falling. This is referred to as the stance of the coyote, echoing the cartoon physics of the coyote's falls.